This is in a studio about the size of this room.
Also like a TV
Oh,
show.
very, very small. Yes, a TV show. This was done just specially for, as a matter of fact, when we were doing this, we thought it was real cheesy. You know, how to say cheesy in Japanese? Really amateur. Amateur. Yeah. Yeah, it's just like a local, it was a local show. You know, and we were doing it, we were just like, wow, this is, you know, but after, you know, many years later, you realize how lucky we were that we did this, because it's about the only documentation that you have of Randy performing live. This is live. This is not any studio overdub or anything.
Ozzy Osbourne and Randy Rhoads together are best visually documented in the form of the After Hours filming. On April the 28th of 1981, the band took stage at the 31 Studios in Ogden, New York, as they performed for this television program broadcast on WUHF Channel 31.
Good morning. Channel 31, WUHF TV Rochester, now begins its broadcast day. Channel 31 studios and offices are located in the Mallrite Communications Center at 360 East Avenue in Rochester.
The station is based out of Rochester, New York, which is why the film's location is labeled incorrectly as being from Rochester, which is 11 miles from where it was actually filmed.
Ozzy Osbourne and the Blizzard of Oz were in town a month or so ago. They agreed to come to Channel 31 and record for After Hours.
The person who should get credited for this priceless footage is Marty Duda, who at the time was a radio disc jockey on WCMF 96.5 FM, who also worked for Channel 31.
First of all, the reason that the shows, I started working at Channel 31 when they went on the air the year before. And at the same time, I was a part-time disc jockey at WCMF. And so after spending about a year at 31 and kind of getting up to speed on television production, I thought, well, why not make a TV show about music? So that's what, and I talked to my superiors at CMF, and they thought it was a great idea. So we did where we could simulcast it. So actually, it's pretty cool that we were doing that in 1980, 81. So we got it all sorted out, and the powers that be at CMF kind of arranged, because they were tight with the record companies, so they could get some bigger names in. Back then, the television production was quite a bit different than it is now. We were one of the first places to have 1-inch videotape. So we recorded the Ozzy thing on 1-inch tape, but we didn't have any control track or any time code or anything like that. So the editing, which I did myself, was very time consuming and labor intensive. I had to sync everything up manually with the sound and the vision, because we had a sound truck come in to record the audio. Thank God. It was a guy, I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he was amazing. He did a great job because the sound is great on it. But and the studio at CM or at 31 was relatively small, and of course Ozzy and his crew brought in all of their gear. They were setting up like a gig, and there were these huge Marshall stacks, and we brought in a studio audience of about maybe 30 people on little benches, and they were sitting like this far from the stacks, so they were just getting blown away. It was amazing.
What kind of volume were they doing?
Intense volume. So if you watch the video, which I'm sure you have, you'll note that a lot of times there's lines going horizontally across the screen. Those are the tubes in the cameras vibrating from the sound.
If you are enjoying this video so far, please consider Ozzy Osbourne Ozology, available on Amazon.com and most book retailers.
Ozzy came in and he did a show at the Auditorium Theater.
Yep.
So since they were in town and we had this, groundbreaking television show in the making, they said, "Hey, you want to have Ozzy on your show?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Let's do this." He was a mess, and there was bad blood, obviously, and so Ozzy was kind of starting from scratch, which is why we were able to get him as well, because he was just doing whatever he could to promote himself. So that was all good. And we had Ted Edwards, who was a jock on CMF, so he hosted the thing for us.
Well, that's our show for tonight. I'd like to thank Todd Rundgren, Utopia, Ian Hunter Pearl, and New Math for appearing on the first edition of After Hours. If you'd like to see more of this show, it wouldn't hurt to write to either 96 WCMF Radio or WUHF TV and let them know how you feel. So until next time, This is Ted Edwards. Thanks for listening and watching. Good night.
The filming would take place on Tuesday, April the 28th of 1981, with the auditorium concert taking place the following day, which is confirmed by Rudy Sarzo and tour itineraries, but Marty remembers the filming taking place on Friday, May the 1st.
My best recollection is it was a Friday night that we did the recording in the early evening. And I think the show was like on a Wednesday, according to setlist.com or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was Friday night because I was on the air on CMF doing an overnight thing that night. So I had been up all day making this thing, and it was a long, hard work. And once Ozzy and his crew were done recording, of course, we still had the high techs to record as well. And they wouldn't leave. They wouldn't break. They were tired. They wanted beers. They wanted to break down. We're like, come on, guys, you got to get out of here. So it was close to midnight before I got out of 31, and I had to go right on air and work and be on air until 6 a.m. the next morning.
It's unlikely that the band would have filmed the show on Friday, as that's when the band performed twice in the same day at the Palladium.
What do you remember about the band, Ozzy himself, Randy Rhoads?
Well, there's quite a bit. One thing, the keyboard player was Don Airey, right?
That is incorrect. Don Airey, who had been on the Blizzard of Oz album, could not tour with Ozzy. Don had already signed on for Rainbow's Down to Earth tour, so Lindsay Bridgewater was hired in his place.
They told us not to shoot him or show him at all.
Really?
Yep.
What was the beef?
I don't know. It was one of those things. They were really nasty to Don Airey. And so, because at the beginning of Mr. Crowley has a long keyboard intro, you'll notice all you can see is his hands. We were told not to shoot him.
Wow. Who said that? Ozzy or was
Ozzy
Sharon
and
there?
Sharon? Sharon was there, definitely. Oh, yeah. Randy was extremely quiet. I don't know if I said more than 3 words to him the whole time. He was just there to do his, and you watch the video, he just wails when he's playing, man. He's awesome.
Sure.
So that's great. Ozzy was a mess. My most vivid recollection is we were back in the kind of green room area prepping to get ready for him to do his thing. And Sharon's back there and he's fluffing around and blah, blah, blah. And we're about ready to go on, and he decides he needs to gargle. He needs some like mouthwash.
Yeah.
So we go and find some mouthwash, and we bring it back to him. And instead of gargling with it, he drank it, and he almost choked to death in front.
Was he drinking it to try to get the alcohol?
I don't know. I don't think he was. I think he was just confused.
Well, it was Ozzy. It was a bad period for Ozzy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't want to speculate on his whatever he was doing or not doing, but I did see him almost choke to death on Listerine.
Now that touring band also had Tommy Aldridge on drums.
He was
Humble
him,
Pie, and he was like the veteran.
Yeah.
Anything you remember with Aldridge?
Just that he wailed, I know he used to be in Black Oak, Arkansas. And, I mean, all you got to do is watch the video and you can see how amazing these guys were. And Rudy Sarzo was sitting there in that outrageous red outfit, the latex thing that he's wearing, just like thumping on the bass. That was awesome.
Yeah. So the band does the 5 songs, I think it was. It was like a half hour long.
I think it was 4. Yeah. It was Mr. Crowley, Suicide Solution, I Don't Know, and I have to look and see what the other one is, but yeah, they were all, off the album. I eventually sold a copy of it to Ozzy's people later in the 80s after Rudy had died, and they had asked me, and I sent it to them, and I made a few $1,000 on it. Probably should have held out for more now. Yeah, but there you go. And so, and of course, Sharon in particular is notorious for overdubbing, fixing, replacing.
If you watch the original television broadcast versus the later releases, there were some noticeable edits and overdubs, particularly where Ozzy shows frustration after his voice cracks during Crazy Train.
Because, and I've got the original here, and I'm like, that's not how it sounded when we broadcast it.
We're going to do a song now that, I'm going to be a little modest, features one of the ace guitar players in the United States, although everyone except for all you here don't know it yet. Randy Rhoads!
the thing with your footage and what happened back then, because that's really the only thing there is of Rhoads. Sure, there's boots and grainy. And
I've seen some really bad stuff, but nothing that's really watchable. And we were lucky to get Ozzy and the band to come up and agree to do our thing. It was only months later that Randy died. So it was
about a year later, almost a year later.
So and it's amazing that no one shot any video of them between then and then. I can't believe that, because I expected stuff to come out of the woodwork at that point, but nothing has. I haven't seen anything.
Nothing.
VHS and Betamax recordings of the television broadcast have circulated over the years. Clips have also been used on various documentaries and programs, but was never fully released until the 30 years after the Blizzard box set was released in 2011, albeit containing edits and overdubs.